The election just ended. 2025 is literally around the corner. What's going to happen in the housing market? Well, I'm here to give you a realistic view of where the housing market stands today. So let's start by looking at the election in the housing market. How is that correspondence? Well, looking at previous data, it really doesn't impact it as much. Really, the only impact is the month of November in an election year is when things start to slow down a little bit, given that the uncertainty from buyers and sellers about who may enter the office. Now, regardless of the election, it's also combined a little bit with seasonally entering into the winter. So historically, the better time to sell would be the spring and the summertime. It's kind of a rough judgment in the past couple of years because we've been in such a crazy market. But that combined with the election of just entering in the colder months, and sellers aren't really typically wanting to sell in the winter. The majority of folks, I would say, it's going to lead to a little bit lower inventory levels entering into 2025. Richmond, Virginia is a little bit of an oddball because we are a little bit stronger market than other areas in the country. I am still seeing in certain areas, specifically in these kind of two regions here on screen, around the Richmond, starting kind of a Tuckahoe all the way down into the city, around that University of Richmond, and a little bit across the river. Also up in Short Bump, where the Deep Run High School District. Those two areas are primarily the main focus for a lot of folks entering into the market, and that's going to cause a surplus. And I'm still seeing 10s, 20s, 30s, 40s, 50,000s over asking price for some of these areas in certain homes. These are going to be your most demanding areas in the marketplace here in Richmond, Virginia. From what my perspective is, kind of searching and being the battlefield, searching for these houses. Also, another category is the lakeside area. Not as much of a demand in cash purchasings and a lot of money just to be thrown at a house, but you are getting a lot of first-time home buyers that really want to be in lakeside or kind of around that area. So you are competing with other first-time home buyers, which does create a little bit more competitiveness on the first-time home buyer front as well. I'm going to go into what we know now and what we can probably predict for the foreseeable future into 2025, maybe even to 2026, where the housing market might stay. Looking at three things: inflation, interest rates, and supply and demand. Now, going into interest rates, my friend Peyton over at United Bank is seeing interest rates around 6.5, maybe creeping up to the high sevens, and that has risen from the mid 5% that we saw back in just September when the Fed lowered rates. Now, this could rise, this could lower, but really we have to look at the data, and what we've seen in the past year and a half is interest rates have kind of stabilized between 6.5 and 7.5. Now, they've dipped below that 6.5 and they've risen above that 7.5. But when they do outside of that range, they don't stay there for long. They typically fall back under that 6.5 to 7.5 range very quickly after they kind of adjust. Especially if you can afford a home in that range, that's a good range. That's what we've seen in the past year and a half. They're not going to change too much. But if you can't afford a house where it kind of stretches your budget, of course, don't overextend yourself. I'm not one to kind of force you in a house or kind of sell you on a house. It's got to make sense for you. The house has to be a good house for you. And if you're wanting to be in this market, around 6.5 to 7.5 is a decent range of what we've seen. Now, the big problem is supply and demand. We've been in a heavy seller's market, and until more inventory rises, we can predict things to stay around where they are with the demand and the fight it is to get a decent house in a decent area. Now, where the rubber meets the road is inflation and supply and demand, where inflation is bringing up prices of pretty much everything, also infiltrating the housing market a little bit and also infiltrating that housing price a little bit, along with rate. Inflation has kicked our butt the past couple of years, and this is where kind of the election comes in place of, hey, what are the policies, what are the different impacts that a new candidate may enter the market and impact in a positive or negative way. It's kind of where we wait to see. But really the factor of things is inflation is not going to have much of an impact over the supply and demand of today's market. So as long as there's less inventory than buyer demand, we are still going to be in this situation regardless. Now, say to say, even if you're not wanting to pull the trigger on a house until next spring, I'd say start to get in the market. I've seen many times more than not, a lot of people enter the market, and it takes a little bit of a learning curve to understand specifically where they're searching and how that is impacted by other buyers in the area and what offers to make. And you don't want to find the perfect house and then lose on the offer for that house that was perfect because you are new to the market and you don't really know what to expect when writing an offer against certain other offers. Of course, that kind of also falls on the line on your real estate agent. You want to pick somebody that understands the area, that can give you the details on how to win the property. And then that decision ultimately comes back to you on, hey, is it affordable for me? Is that a comfort that I'm willing to fight for this home for certain offerings and things. But a real estate agent, a good one, will tell you what is needed and how to kind of protect yourself in that offer for not overextending yourself past what you have to compete for. So, hopefully this video has been helpful for you. This has been kind of a November update. If you're thinking about jumping in the market, maybe selling in 2025, please reach out. I'm happy to help and assist you. See you on the next one.